Nice opinion. Just one tiny problem with it. Inspecting your post, it looks like your opinion is different from mine. Let me tell you something. I am the baseline for opinions. Any opinion I hold is objectively correct, and as a result, any other opinions are wrong. Guess what? You happen to hold a wrong one. I hope you know that your opinion is now illegal. I have contacted the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Navy SEALs, Secret Service, and your mom. You'll be sorry you ever shared your opinions. By the time you're reading this, you'll be done for. Nature will punish you. Humanity will punish you. Supernatural beings will punish you. Space will punish you. We decided just to make sure we'll nuke your house from orbit, so there's no chance you can run away. Everyone will know you will die. It's a small price to pay to remove your wrong opinion from this world.
All right. Yes. Okay. So, hello. Okay. So what we're gonna do is first we're going to react to this video before we start reading, the whole. Before we start reading the rest of the doc, we're going to react to this small rundown, and then we'll react to it again. So I guess we'll get started. Also, if you're watching the rewatch, maybe like the stream, subscribe if you enjoy. I mean, usually I don't talk about this, but I mean, if you like K-pop and stuff like that, Korean drama, I guess, YouTube as well. Comment your thoughts, if you want, and let's get going.
The context. Sinder is an indie American VTuber who debuted on June 25th, 2022, and was one of the top indie VTubers on Twitch, peaking at around 350,000 followers. She would get involved in a massive controversy on April 26th, 2025, when Nanolist,
that was 5 months ago,
the artist for Sinder's models, posted a 17-page doc going over her experiences with Sinder and her manager Redacted. Following this document, several others would publish their own statements against Sinder, claiming that she was a massive manipulator who used everyone for the sake of her own growth. Sinder would fire Redacted the next day, and would post her apology statement following that. Sinder remained offline since the incident. However, on October 7th, 2025, Sinder would post a massive 1,000-page Google Doc on Twitter, stating,
which I have right here. Look, last week I only read 3, and this is 232 pages, so I might only get this one done. It's gonna be a while, but
stating that the individuals who accused her back in April were all lying. The overview. Sinder's document is divided into 13 separate sections, with the majority of the document focusing on addressing Nanolist, which is 21.2% of the doc, Silverveil, about 24% of the doc, and the overall breakdown of the events from Sinder's point of view, about 23.6% of the doc. In the document, Sinder would state that the purpose of the document is to defend herself and Redacted, take accountability for several things both revealed in the original documents and not publicly known information, and refute misconceptions that came out of the documents. Sinder would state that the document has speculative information that is mostly supported with evidence, and would call out the individuals who harassed anyone involved in the situation. The accusations. Sinder would explicitly call out 3 individuals for being the main perpetrators of the controversy. Nanolist for allegedly spreading significant slander and misinformation regarding her experience with Redacted, Shy Lily for allegedly, quote, orchestrating things behind the scenes and public manipulation, and Silverveil for allegedly lying about all of their interactions with Sinder. She would state that out of everyone involved in this situation, those 3 had the most to gain from Sinder's cancellation. Sinder would say that, because of the extreme harassment and character assassination of her and GamerSubs, a company where Sinder had partial ownership, she voluntarily stepped down from her position in the company. The arguments. Sinder would start her arguments by discussing her status with Redacted, stating that the 2 of them co-wrote the document.
I think the Silver one is the least likely, since what does she really have to gain?
would explicitly say that the two of them are still together after spending time apart, mentioning that while she cheated on Red online and painted Red in a negative light in her first apology doc, where she would claim that she was blindsided by her friends and essentially forced her to publicly call Red out, the two are able to make amends after their time apart, and are actively together again, claiming that the two have had communication problems for a while that have improved over time, and moved past the problems the two had in the past. She would mention how she lived with Red and his family from summer of 2022 to the end of February of 2025, but moved out after having consistent streaming issues involving her setup. She would also state that Red would continue to work with Sinder as her manager, though would no longer handle work-related communications on her behalf, and would plan to delete the original tweet where she announced that Red was fired. She would also list a few things that Red allegedly hid from Sinder, which primarily consisted of communications with the three main perpetrators, Bao, Cotton, and other anonymous individuals. Sinder would move on to discuss the contents of her apology doc, primarily focusing on correcting statements made towards Red and her friends in that doc, reaffirming statements that the two took accountability for, and apologizing to several individuals who don't have their own section in the document. When it came to discussing Red and the statements she made against him, she divided the claims made in the apology doc into 4 separate sections: truthful actions that Red did alone that Sinder was already aware of, truthful actions that Red did that Sinder was also guilty of, truthful actions that Red did alone that Sinder wasn't aware of until writing the doc, and actions Red did that were false. She would also list 15 things that she took accountability for in her apology, which included cheating on Red, getting overly upset in multiple instances, and general negligence. Sinder would essentially call out the people who claimed that she took no accountability for her and Red's actions, and would state that while she does understand that Red's actions were ultimately her responsibility, she would claim that she was being blamed for things that she had nothing to do with. Outside of her apology, Sinder would list out 22 instances where she and Red are guilty of doing something wrong, and claim that these were the only wrongdoings that the two have done, stating that every other claim that was made against the two isn't true. Some of these instances include becoming neglectful of relationships, attempting to gain exclusivity of
Okay, okay. If there's 23 instances, who's saying there isn't more? Just put that out there.
different things in multiple cases, being openly distrustful of various individuals, and several other things. She would state that the majority of these instances occurred between August of 2024 till April of 2025. Sinder would state how her relationships with her friends were damaged due to her priorities being focused on her work, and would apologize to them for neglecting them over the course of 2024. She would try to refute the claims that she was just using her friends for her own benefit by showcasing pictures of cosplay items that she created for some of her friends, and would state that her friendships were real and not stepping stones for her career. She would talk about how she and Red would dedicate an unhealthy amount of time towards her work, to the point where work was being done almost 24/7. Sinder would claim that the money wasn't their driving force for their work, but rather an indicator of success, but did acknowledge an instance where the claims of her being, quote, money hungry would be the strongest, as the instance involved an intermission in one of her model debut lore videos that required viewers to donate bits in order for the intermission to end. However, she would state that the motivation behind this wasn't to garner monetary gains, but to implement interactivity into the debut. She would briefly go over a section in her apology regarding how she viewed her friends as competition, stating that Red was the driving force behind this.
I mean, that's... whether it was Red or not, that's not good.
Narrative. Red would pitch in with his own mini statement where he would state that, quote, everyone was competition. While Red would state that the competitive mindset wasn't an excuse to hurt other creators, he would state that he did view Silverveil, Bat, Shy Lily in a negative light, and saw them as, quote, direct competition in the negative sense. Cinder would go on to briefly apologize to 3 individuals in this section that didn't have enough to talk about in their own respective sections. With Tricky, Cinder would apologize to her for ditching her during a trip to Japan, where the two in Red were planning to go to the Godzilla store, but ended up going there without Tricky due to her being asleep. With Cottontail, she would apologize for avoiding her due to a situation that Cinder didn't have any involvement in. Red would throw in his own apology to Cottontail for asking Nano to not work with Cotton. With Nixu, aka Iomaya, Cinder would apologize to her for suddenly canceling an agreement between the two, and failing to follow Nixu's terms of the agreement, where Cinder failed to verbally shout out her Patreon as part of the agreement. She would blame this on being unprofessional. Getting into one of the major sections of the document, Cinder would talk about Nanolis, the primary artist for Cinder, and her claims of manipulation, slandering others, and dragging her into drama. Sinder would claim that Nano's claims were the basis for everyone else to post their own statements, and said that after reading Red's DMs between him and Nano, Nano lied about her experiences. This section contains over 100 pages of DMs between Nano and Red, with the two occasionally providing context and additional information where Sinder and Red felt that it was needed. To try and get through the DMs, most of the screenshots in the beginning were general interactions between Nano and the two in their respective DMs, with the occasional updates and discussions for commissions, as well as the occasional praise for Nano's work. Red would pitch in from time to time talking about how Silvervale didn't like Sinder because she wasn't responding to Cinder's raids the way they wanted, as well as saying that Nano was always open to talking about Cinder's raids the way they wanted, as well as saying that Nano was always open to talking about drama. Screenshots of Red speculating about Silvervale's thoughts.
Hey, hold on 1 second. If I remember 5 months ago, Cinder didn't really want to interact with. Silvervale didn't want to interact with her, or didn't really know her. So unless there's some inconsistencies. It's a little weird.
Thoughts and behaviors towards Cinder were shown, with some even being emphasized. Red would claim that calling Silvervale the enemy of Cinder were Nano's words, and not theirs. More comments from Red would focus on emphasizing the positive relationship between Nano and the two, as well as trying to clarify some of the more questionable messages from Red that Nano used as evidence in her doc, such as claiming that Red never asked Nano to cancel anyone's models, though Red would later admit to offering Nano money to not work with Silver on a model. Red would compare Nano's models to, quote, rare trading cards, by saying how the more models Nano made, the less valuable they'd become for the people who have them, stating that each model becomes, quote, less special as Nano makes more. Cinder would pitch in as well when it came to her own DMs with Nano, stating that the infamous "it's just business" DM was used in a way as an attempt to reassure Nano that if she ever had to change the status of Cinder's commissions for whatever reason, it was just business and nothing personal. She would state that, without any of the context of Red's prior discussion, her DMs with Nano could be easily taken out of context. The two would talk with Nano about her wanting to cancel her commission with Bao, which would be a decent chunk of this section, where they would claim that Nano wanted to do this out of her own volition and was scared to do so, though Red would admit that he shouldn't have weighed in on his personal opinions regarding the situation. A series of interactions involving exclusivity discussions were also included, where the two claimed that Nano brought up exclusivity first through a hypothetical question. In a later interaction involving exclusivity, Red asked Nano to not take on any brand new model clients, and to not make any new models and outfits with Silvervale specifically. A deal was made, though it would be cancelled a month later due to her not being willing to cancel on Silvervale. Cinder would state that she had no part of this agreement, to which Red affirmed to be the case. When Nano was making a model for Shy Lily, Red would soon have issues with this, as he had concerns that Lily and Cinder had a negative relationship with each other. He would open up to Nano about this, claiming that he thought Lily really had issues with Cinder. This would be the last set of messages that Red had with Nano through DMs, and would also be around the time where Nano would stop talking with Cinder. Nano would soon add Red into a group chat with her and Nano's manager, Akira, where they told Red that Nano would be on an indefinite hiatus from working with them due to burnout. Red would accept this decision, but Red and Cinder would hint skepticism regarding the reasoning behind this decision. After some time passed, Nano would post her document to Twitter. Cinder claimed that the two attempted to reach out to Nano through DMs, but would soon delete them after. Nano would then cut off communication with them. When it came to Bao, Cinder apologized to her for neglecting her as a close friend, and for Red's general resentment towards Bao that ended up causing Cinder to feel similar resentment. Cinder would acknowledge that she knew of Bao's planned model with Nano, and felt bad that Nano cancelled her model because of her. Red would also apologize for his resentment towards Bao, and admitted to reassuring Nano that she could cancel Bao's model as a way to take an opportunity away from them. Cinder would include roughly 60 pages worth of screenshots containing various interactions of the three.
A lot of screenshots.
Though a lot of these screenshots would be interactions between Nano and Red, as a way for Cinder and Red to confirm the things that happened in Nano's section. Instances where Red developed negative opinions about Bao were included as well. Red would bring his opinions up to Cinder, where the two would fight over it. A unique interaction would be between Red and Sacramore, the music video editor for Cinder's music group Boss Rush, where Sacramore stated that he was going exclusive with Bao, where Red admitted that he was skeptical of Sac's reason for going exclusive, and began feeling resentment towards Bao, later claiming that Bao was very negative about her own music and was taking it out on her fans, but wouldn't provide screenshots to back those claims, instead linking a tweet that, quote, indirectly supports the above claim. Red would acknowledge that he misjudged Bao's intentions and situation, and apologized to Sack for being misinformed and hostile towards him. The majority of the remaining screenshots and comments were taken from Nano's section, though there is a portion where Cinder stated that Red pressured her to not interact with Bao professionally anymore, to where she said that she refused, but would choose to keep her distance with Bao. Red would admit to doing this. Cinder would also admit to neglecting their friendship, which caused Bao to feel isolated and confided in Numi about Cinder's actions. Numi's section primarily focused on Cinder apologizing for neglecting Numi's offer to be a part of her concert in February of 2025 by prioritizing her business venture of representing V-Card over Numi's concert. The roughly 6 or 17 pages of screenshots that followed contained several sets of interactions between Cinder and Red and Numi, as well as between Cinder and Shy Lily regarding their upcoming collab with V-Card. Generally speaking, the interactions with Numi consisted of Red and Cinder talking about the upcoming concert, where Cinder would be performing an original song composed by Numi, and the interactions with Shy Lily consisted of planning for the V-Card collab. Cinder would end up choosing to focus on the V-Card collab and her position as a part owner of Gamersubs, and would end up turning down Numi's request in a convoluted manner. This would lead to Numi confronting Cinder about it, to which Cinder apologized to her about the miscommunication. Numi would accept Cinder's apology. Cinder would be able to attend Numi's concert as a viewer, and told Numi that she would be at her next concerts, though it ended up not happening due to the controversy. Shy Lily's section focused on talking about her response to Cinder's apology. Cinder would state that Lily was the first person Nano reached out to about this controversy, and claimed that Lily orchestrated the collaborative effort of canceling her, with her response being the final nail in Cinder's coffin. The following roughly 12 to 13 pages of screenshots discussed Cinder's interactions with Shy Lily, specifically their V-Card collab, as well as previously mentioned information from the previous sections again. Regarding the V-Card collab, Cinder admitted that she leaked information about V-Card ahead of the release date, with some of that information being completely incorrect. Shy Lily would be openly annoyed about this happening, and stated in her stream that, while she won't say who leaked the information, official sources were the only ones that had the correct information about V-Card, with Cinder claiming that Shy Lily stated that Cinder wasn't an official source of information, despite her having the information and being a partial owner of Gamersubs. Cinder would apologize to Lily about the leaked information, to which Lily accepted at the time. The two wouldn't directly talk to each other for some time, until Cinder offered to play Split Fiction with Lily, to which she rejected. The last DMs between the two would involve troubleshooting OBS. Cinder would state that Shy Lily would never greet or thank her for 2 of the raids she did. From there, the majority of information was taken from Nano's section, though it would include an interaction between her and Boska about Shy Lily's lack of communication, to which Boska stated that Shy Lily only used Discord for business purposes. Cinder would send a message 5 days prior to the documents being published, to which she would get ghosted. The second largest section in Cinder's document talked about the individuals who were involved in canceling Cinder, which Cinder claimed to be 12 different people, though she suspected that more people had some form of involvement. Cinder would emphasize Shy Lily's involvement in this section, as she claimed that Shy Lily manipulated Nano into believing that Cinder and Red were manipulating her, leading to Nano's doc being made and published. It's in this section where the majority of comments made in the entire document were labeled as speculative. Cinder would provide a 17-day timeline that discussed the events that happened between April 11th and April 28th, 2025, where Cinder would source previous sections and VODs to provide a general overview of the events, while also providing speculative comments regarding the details, such as potential events that may have transpired, whether Nano's manager was actually her manager, and whether Nano's screenshots of DMs were taken in different time zones or not, though Cinder feels more confident in the last matter. Cinder continues this section by beginning her dissection of the documents with Nano's doc, already ripping into Nano's first sentence with 4 separate paragraphs. Generally speaking, Cinder is refuting Nano's claims of manipulation by allegedly pointing out instances where Nano either failed to provide the full context or made up information entirely. Most of the arguments in this portion of the section had previously been made in Nano's section of the doc, primarily focusing on Nano's desire to cancel other commissions and her desire to go exclusive with Cinder. Cinder would list out speculative theories regarding a few questions, but mostly speculated that Nano was manipulating screenshots after Nano sent them to others, Nano leaked messages to Shy Lily due to believing that Red was lying to her instead of Shy Lily, and Nano had Shy Lily write the document instead of writing it herself. Cinder would move on to talk about Bao's document, where the general claim of this section is that Bao, along with others, was misinformed about the events that transpired, due to Nano and Shy Lily lying to them about the information. Generally speaking, Cinder stated that the majority of Bao's doc was full of false claims, in which Cinder claimed that Bao would only make these claims if she was told about the information by someone else. Cinder would use screenshots from Nano's section as her evidence, but would also reference Bao's stream on April 27th to assert claims and provide context. Her speculations would include Shy Lily contacting Bao to manipulate her, Bao's second model never getting cancelled, and Nano not wanting to work on Bao's model in the first place. Cinder's discussion about Shy Lily's response would be the most argumentative out of anyone else mentioned, as Cinder believed that Lily's response was what cancelled Cinder in the first place. Generally speaking, Cinder mostly focused on refuting claims of choosing business over friends for the sake of money and slandering others, though would make some choice words towards the end. Unlike the previous breakdowns, Cinder would only use around 7 unique screenshots as evidence for her claims against Lily's response tweet, choosing to emphasize her personal experience and thoughts. When it came to Shy Lily's response stream, Cinder would go into extensive detail, with this portion taking up the majority of the section alone. If we ignore the number of times she just says petty, which is 7, Cinder's main points were that Lily dodged collab opportunities and DMs out of her own volition, rather than avoiding problematic situations, deflected problematic things that she allegedly did, as well as Cinder claiming that Lily admitted to, quote, everything she claimed was slander and manipulation that turned Nano against me in the first place. When it came to the speculations, Cinder claimed that Shy Lily did this out of envy and gained a lot out of lying. Lily encouraged Nano to lie in her doc, and Lily would manipulate Nano and others to push her narrative. She would make 3 different conclusions in this section. With the general conclusion, Cinder would state that while Red did create an assumed story based on his experiences that painted those involved in a negative light, the others could have done the exact same thing towards Cinder and Red. Cinder would state that she forgives her friends for partaking in her cancellation, as she believes that they were led on and manipulated. With Nano, Cinder would state that she felt betrayed by Nano's doc, and believed that Nano's intentions were originally malicious. Cinder believed that Shy Lily grossly manipulated Nano into speaking out, and planned to continue using Nano's work until they can be replaced. With Shy Lily, Cinder would direct the majority of her negativity towards her. She would be confident in Shy Lily being the overall mastermind behind Cinder's cancellation, and stated that nobody would have a reason not to believe Shy Lily, which she allegedly used to her advantage in deplatforming Cinder. Moving past that segment, Cinder would dive into the largest section of the document. Silvervale. Cinder would be upfront in saying that the two were never friends, and asserted that Silver hated her and
Well, Silvervale said she didn't want Collabby, she didn't know who she was, and to be fair, it's perfectly reasonable considering what after everything that came out of Shoujo and Silvervale, what happened around Shoujo related. It's not surprising Silvervale would just want to be her own kind of person and not collab with anybody.
Red for years. She would claim that Silvervale confidently lied about Cinder when she had the chance. Just like with the other sections, Silvervale's section mostly contained over 100 pages of screenshots, but did try to have a fair amount of original commentary and analysis. The main focus of this section was disproving the allegations of copying Silvervale's design and overall personality, by showcasing the history of Cinder creating her original concept based on her previous ASMR persona, and taking inspiration for other VTubers and their outfits. Cinder would talk about how the two met through a mutual friend, where the two somewhat hit it off, though wouldn't have future collabs due to Silvervale preferring to play alone. When it came to the meet and greet photo at
Exactly my point.
TwitchCon in 2023, Cinder would state that the photo wasn't planned, and was taken by Red without her or Silvervale's knowledge. She would also include a series of attempted interactions with Silvervale through DMs, however, most would be met with silence. Cinder would also talk some of Silver's Twitch moderators reached out to Red and applied to be part of Cinder's moderation team. Although the main moderator in question asked Red to keep their DMs private, Red would put up the DMs up into the doc. It's through these DMs that Cinder would find out about Silver blacklisting Cinder's emotes in her chat, and eventually Cinder's name as well. When Cinder talked about Silver's statement, Cinder stated that Silver only knew what information Nano shared, and claimed that she only agreed with the narrative that the others decided upon by emphasizing Silver's apparent negative feelings towards Cinder. When Silver made additional statements on streams like the others, Cinder would use roughly 30 pages of this section to try and refute the statements made. Most of the rebuttals focused on Cinder claiming that Silver didn't tell her to go away when she felt annoyed towards her. and blamed Sinder for all of her failures. In her conclusion, Sinder would state that Silver is a quote master emotional manipulator and was envious of Cinder's success to the point of quote seething over her existence. Sinder would also speculate that Silver never liked her and copied her, not the other way around, and tried to call out Silver for collabing with Shy Lily, despite claiming to prefer streaming solo. Deputy Aru's section is on the smaller end of this document, as it primarily focused on
It's like she prefers solo, but she's not allowed to occasionally collab. Okay, give me 1 second. I do have a question though, actually. Question is, when did she come out? 2020. And okay, when did she come out? 2015. So actually, no. Okay. It seems like that's actually not true. Because her model's always been kind of foxy since the beginning. So actually, that's actually a lie. So
two particular tweets from Aru that claimed that Sinder treated her as a tool to get to Silvervale rather than a friend. Sinder would claim that this wasn't the case, but rather it was Aru who offered an opportunity to meet Silvervale through a collab opportunity. Sinder would state that Aru admitted to lying in her tweets and included about 14 pages of DMs between the two, where it mostly consisted of the two talking about the potential collab, getting art together, and hanging out off-stream. No speculative theories or breakdowns are presented in this section. When it came to Spite, Sinder apologized for the harassment Spite faced for being similar to her, and admitted to knowing about Spite being excluded from working with Nano because of Cinder.
Spite came out before Cinder did, so, but just Cinder's more popular.
Personal feelings. She would then claim that Spite was contacted by Shy Lily, who encouraged her to make a public statement that is, quote, made up of allegations without evidence, and is purely based on conjecture. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but whatever. Similar to Silvervale's section, Cinder would begin with providing her evidence that she didn't copy Spite, and went into additional detail regarding the summer, goddess, and sleepwear outfits, as those were some of the main points Spite made in her document. While she states that most of their teasers and tweets were coincidental, Cinder does admit to making a tweet in spite of Spite after she believed that Spite was copying her. In her speculation portion,
so you said you weren't, but also you made a tweet to spite her.
She would claim that Spite possibly copied Cinder, not the other way around, due to various circumstances.
Again, Spite came out before Cinder did.
She would also talk about ASMR VTuber Nowntales and how individuals harassed her over similar designs, though wouldn't mention how she liked one of the individual's tweets, and would state that the two resolved their issues. She would conclude with a statement about VTuber designs and the general idea of copying others, stating that she grew to be less concerned with others taking inspiration from her design, specifically the fire inside her ears. After her breakdowns and decoding of the previously mentioned individuals, Cinder would issue a formal apology to her community, stating that she regretted disappearing with a poorly made statement and wished her community the best in the future. Red would also throw in a brief apology of his own. Cinder would also call out the individuals who harassed others for the sake of defending her, stating that they are disgusting people who don't belong in her community, and apologize to those who were impacted by the mentioned individuals. To conclude the doc, Cinder stated that she plans to come back as Cinder in the near future, and is excited to get back into content creation. The responses. Generally speaking, the responses have been very mixed, with a spectrum of positive
Not surprising.
And negative tweets being made commenting on Sinder's doc. The general pattern of responses are the following. Sinder is still to blame for everything. Sinder is more at fault, but others have some fault. Everyone involved has equal amounts of fault. Others are more at fault, but Sinder has some fault, and Sinder is 100% forgiven. In terms of direct replies on Sinder's tweet, the responses fall towards the negative side of the spectrum, with many stating that Sinder shouldn't have written 1,000 pages as a defense. Sinder contradicting herself on multiple occasions, and that while Nano may have lied and over-exaggerated details in her document, there is still a decent chunk of padding, contradictory statements, and misinformation that goes beyond her counter-arguments against Nano. Outside of Sinder's tweet, the responses are more mixed, but generally fall in the moderate sides and the middle of the spectrum, though there are still plenty of people who fall on the ends of both sides. Focusing on the blue section, some of the main arguments made include that most people have a predetermined bias that they don't want to change,
Oh, it's that person, of course.
and anyone who didn't read the majority of the document made their opinions too early. Regardless of where you fall on this spectrum, do not harass anybody involved in the situation.
I think that's fairly obvious, but my conclusion from, the 3 chapters I've read, and also that thing is, it's still mostly her. She's just trying to, it's literally just blame game at this point. It's like, oh, it couldn't have been me, but I'll blame someone else at the same time. And the whole mass manipulator is like, that sounds like fan fiction at this point. Like, so yeah. But unfortunately, we're gonna read at least the first pet. We're gonna read this one. That's you can only see that. Okay. Anyway, I'm not pulling that up, but All right, here we go. It's gonna be painful. Document reference. Okay, there's the document reference. Give me 1 second before I actually, do this. All right, here we go. Name use document claim both read and I manipulated. Use track turns drama while slandering multiple YouTubers, including our friends. These claims were the basis for everything else publicly released afterwards. Documents from half a dozen people and many others tweeting their grievances with me. It all hanged on Nano's document being posted as validity. When I wrote my apology tweet, I said I was not fully aware of the extent of Red's manipulation over Nano's commission and decisions. Oh boy, this is gonna be a while. Okay, 33 minutes for this. Okay, give me one. When I wrote the poorly worked sentence, I hadn't seen all the DMs. I was in panic, and I didn't think Nana would be lying about anything. But now that I've read the DMs, I can say that Nana was not manipulated, abused, used, lied to, mistreated, expected to take action over any drama she was told about, or incapable of making her own decision regarding her commissions and clientele. She was never forced to do anything, has been in control of her own choices and always had the ability to say no. She was met with understanding and faced no repercussions professionally or personally from either of us when she did. Nano's um message which a narrative that never happened. I don't believe it ever showed the full context of the message to read to my friends. Her claims were backed by Shiley, and I believe they were misled into blindly supporting it. Okay, so here we goes where she's accusing Shiley and everyone else of basically being puppet masters of, manipulating everyone into hating on Cinder. So basically, here comes this schizo master puppet master theory. Okay. Nana was a close friend of mine who we respected and was a massive part of my own success. I've never only ever praised her private and publicly. There was nothing she could do for me to hold against her or choose to stop working with her. She backstabbed you. I don't know, maybe. Red and I always encouraged him to do what's best for not us. Red, who handled our plans, made sure to work around her schedule, push projects back if if he trusted her, and the extent he lied to her about other people involved who was in telling her his own genuine thoughts, observations, and expectations with them as he knew them, the same way my accusers did to the public, and who they assumed how Red and I have operated together. I don't know. The claim that Red and I worked to sabotage Nana was a lie. We both would praise her for the work she did for other people, and I've always celebrated and supported new Nana model siblings when they debuted. Even if Red was really asking Nana to cancel every model she had, it was ultimately still her choice to do so or not. But all the blame for her action was somehow put on me. There were only 4 people Red ever exclusively asked Nana not to work with her agreeing not to. The first was Spidey at the start of 23. Red asked Nano himself, and he told me about it earlier. I lied about not knowing this in my apology since it was never mentioned in Nano or Spidey's documents. Bao, Cotton, and Silver were all part of their exclusivity deal in January 25, each of Red's own reasons. I will only ever aware of an agreement asking Nano not to work with Silver anymore. Red was never told me about the other 2. I mean, that's kinda messed up not to ask someone not to work with. About the others, I am not guilty of him using his free will to push his own agenda and express his own feelings to Nano. But I understand this as my manager. Everything he said to her or anyone else is my responsibility, whether I knew about it or not. Although they were friends, it was unprofessional of him to ask to gossip or cheer. I mean, that is in a way kind of what it is put on you, since he is representing you as manager. So yeah, I don't know. Like, okay, we've worked with Hannah for years. She's is an incredible artist who I've treasured working alongside for my entire career. I put my faith in her. At the start, when we were both much smaller creators, she saved me from a year-long schedule to get my first model, and she's been with me ever since my journey since I wanted Nana to be part of anything she could and chose to make her artwork the backbone of my brand, and I love and appreciate every single thing she's done for me. I'm proud of everything I've been able to do for her. In April, I believe Nana found herself in a situation she couldn't back out of, and then chose to do what would result in the best beneficial outcome for herself. Hide the truth. Right. I know. Below are a large portion of Nano's DMs with Red and I over the past 2.5 years that show any situations brought up in Nano's documents in full context. Show the relationship we had with her, how she tells about us, other people involved, and everything in any relevant conversation that weren't included in what was posted to public. I've also included some of my own messages with that and some messages with other people. Some of these DMs are included in the following sections of this document. Nano profile picture is different in some of the scriptures because of them being taken at different times throughout making this document. Yeah, because, profile pictures change, but everything is okay, that's the chronology. Order, all dates, ESC, but any private information, okay, red, border, wait, any of the documents. Wait, messages that were red, screenshots that were taken, another document, orange, it's dates import, yellow, quotes, and reds are comments are in blue. Okay, so 23, Nano was already sharing her commission plan with Red. She's told him it was okay for commissioned merch previously talked about. Question the list for the majority again. And that's the screenshot. Oh my gosh. Okay. I just can't. This is way too much. I don't know. I guess, okay, later that day, the first time Red brought up Spite to Nano, Red asked Nano not work with Spite, and she gladly agreed not to. Red only told me about this after it was done. It wasn't something we talked about beforehand, but I was okay with it. Nano never said anything about it to me, about this Nano. We never talked about Spite. Okay, I'm just gonna say this, probably. You know, this is just a lot of manipulation. It seems like she's, saying, "Oh, I didn't actually do this. Someone else did." It's literally blame game. It's literally high school B2 but high school. B's like, "Oh, I didn't actually do this, but I'm gonna blame someone else at the same time." See, it's like, up there, it was like, "Oh, Shiloh the mastermind, manipulator, manipulated everyone else to say something bad about me." It's like, if that was the case, I don't. Oh, hi, camel soup. Where did you get the fox? Where did you get the fox from? I don't, I don't even have a fox. I have the one from Harry Potter fox, but I don't have the animal fox. So, okay. That's not how it's spelled. It's not spelled Fox. It's spelled Fa. Thank you very much. I will talk to you later. All right. Okay. So Uh, okay, so Cinder was upset over the thought Spite copying her, which we also. But the thing is, Spite came before Cinder, and same with Silvervale, which we also watched that video. Is that Spite was before Cinder. Whether she copied or not is irrelevant because Spite, you know, is the fact that Spite wasn't as popular as Cinder, so she got accused of copying Cinder. And Silvervale is a fox, is a Sakura fox, and Cinder is a demon-ish fox. So it's not even really the same thing. Called copying is a bit crazy. So it's much like, oh, they were copying me, yada yada yada. Okay, so Cinder was upset over I saw Spot interact with Nano, possibly the intent of trying to work with her. I went to Nano myself and asked her not to, without talking to Cinder first. And there's the screenshots for conversation as if you're asking Nano to do this, like I would any other time. But then I tell Nano I just want to ask, becoming one hell on exclusive, and I always felt really bad. Ask something like you like this, and never talk about Spy here. Okay, and yeah, okay. Red. Okay. Wait, what's it say? Red and Nano, how they would talk to each other. Red, she wants to make an outfit. Winter. Okay. Then about Nano's other work. First, Nano shared this was between them. Okay. And for Red, she'd be able to meet the deadline with 2 pieces of art she was doing. Nano turned down artwork plans are previously discussed for some time off. Eventually, Red told able to find artists, and I messaged Nano about learning to pose ideas for Waifu Code when she's. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of screenshots. So. Okay, I told Nano I was trying to get her the okay to work on my Waifu Cup on stream. So this is on that. About one of the upcoming model sisters. Okay, one Nano's projects. Oh, and when Silver contacted her about her model MADEIN 22, encouraged her to set aside time for her own content. Okay, that's not that bad, but asking someone about someone else's model is a little weird. I asked Nana about when she made Silver's first model her because we grew suspicious of it. It had anything to do with Cinder and her debut a couple months earlier. Nana wasn't well known as a model artist in the summer of 22 and had only done 3 models at that point, including Cinder's. More about this topic in the silver section of the document. I think Nano for the waifu cover she made for me in Scale Fisher was announced. Red talked to Nano about the situation of the first waifu cup, which led to him revealing our experience with Silver over the past 2 months. Spite was mentioned towards the end of the conversation. Okay. Before this, I was told Silver had her own waifu cup with Nano. Artwork on it that was already far into production. I was very excited and proud to have my first cup with Nano's art, and all of a sudden that wasn't going to be the case. Not only that, but if my cup was going to be real bad for Cinders, I would have been harassed for copying her again. It's like, how are you? Okay, my question is, you're both obvious Cinder and Sylvelle models, and their whole themes are completely different. So how are you going to get in trouble for? Honestly, sounds a little jealousy or something. But you're claiming Cinder Silver has the jealousy. She's kind of doing her own thing over there, so I don't see the jealousy. I do not lie about Nano about anything. I said in this conversation that I would have had no reason to everything. I said as I generally thought and experienced speaking to a friend I trusted. Okay, and there, all that. Silver didn't like Cinder. Okay. I mean, maybe because they weren't friends or didn't really know each other. So how can you hate or like somebody? How can you like somebody you don't really know? How should we respond to Cinder's raid in the past streams we had to infer that leads in direction to raids along with or signals she had a problem with Cinder? I mean, I don't know. How is that similar? Please tell me how that is similar. That's I don't see how that's, the same thing. Okay, okay. Alright, gossip. Yeah, I mean, I don't see how it's really similar. I guess they're both kind of cat wolf characters. I think you're just looking for some at this point you're kind of just looking for, trying to call it copying. That's what I'm looking. Maybe I'm a little biased, I don't know, maybe. Okay. I'm using we're here, but it's in there. Nail clarified. She was the one who went silver about new model, and she told me about it was it on 23. Pete. But the thing is, I also looked at her channel. Her model, this is her 3D model, but her 2D or earlier model was kind of the same thing. They both, you know, it's still the soccer color, blue, cotton candy colored. It's just they got an update. She just happened to get updated 3D model. And okay, there's that. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's someone else. Oh, that's Spent. Okay. Spent. Talked about scale. Okay. Need to change the artwork. Close similar silver veils. Reference sheet. Okay. Oh, that's someone else. Okay, this is getting. It's a okay. Two for red. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think that's a bit of a stretch right there. Eye symbol in my. That feels very just reaching. Ancient models. Yeah. All right. That's okay. Okay, Cinder, that just feels like a reach. You're just like, okay, this feels very reaching. It's like, oh, let's look at what are you gonna accuse? Legend of Zelda of stealing your model too? Because I mean, it's kind of I mean, almost. Yeah, look at this. I mean, look. I mean, if you could almost call it the same thing in some instances, but But my point is, it feels like you're just looking for something at that point. Okay, let's scroll down. Okay, Nana mentioned maybe before contacting her models. We want Silver to get along with Cinder, but we could recognize the way she'd act towards Cinder. I mean, Cinder, Silvale, I think this is a okay, if I'm reading this correctly, yeah, okay. This is in 23. So this is a year, maybe, or the year of when she got freaking harassed for Hogwarts Legacy. So it's not surprising Cinder didn't want to work with anyone. Silvale just wanted to be left alone and just do her own thing. So it's not completely out of the loop or out of the realm of possibility. That's why I think Sylvan will be fighting for your work behind the scenes is the first instance. Okay. Gossip. Got tired of hearing about drama. Sylville. Yeah, I would too, personally. Competition with Silver. I mean, honestly, the competition thing's stupid. It's like, okay, streamers, some get more viewers than the other. Who honestly cares? I mean, then again, I'm having zero people, but it's whatever. Okay. All right. Okay, we're gonna end it there. Honestly, I think I'm not gonna read any more of this on stream because first off, no one probably cares anymore. Also, it's way too long, and just. And the line is, I think Silville is trying to play the victim and half accountability, half non-accountability for her actions, and and doing a whole master manipulation, puppet master theory on why she's not to blame. But that's the end of the stream. If you like the stream, if you want me to talk more about VTuber drama or want me to read more, I guess, of the Soulvale stuff, like the video, subscribe, comment on the stream, or if you just like my K-pop or Korea stuff more, do that as well. But until next time, I will see you later. Bye.
Welcome to the Blizzard Arena.
And the quest for a champion begins today.
The anticipation has been building, and it is finally time. We are live.
Are you ready?
Can you get over the roof there?
Oh my.
Oh my, what a play, what a grab!
Another jump here on the high ground. Super goes forward, but gets stunned up. The EMP comes in, and ding, he rains down hell from above.
Here comes Pine. Gets one, gets two. Looking for a bit more, gets another one.
Tuno's down again. That heralds disaster generally for the Fusion, and Carpe wasn't far behind. Prophet, he's killed 4 players now on his own.
From Vancouver, locks him in the sound barrier. Sound.
It's a huge bomb coming from China. Oh my God, he does it again.
Flutter now moving onto the Widowmaker, taking the clutch into his own hands. The headshot after headshot after headshot.
don't circle around. I will call this the merry-go-round because it makes me laugh, makes me happy, and Sean Paul switches to the Widowmaker at just the right time. Oh, the Gravy!
I'm the best fish in the world.
Oh my word!
I mean, you could have told me that you spoke English, honestly.
The fans never thought they'd see this day. It took 43 matches. Feels like a really emotional moment here.
Sorry.
All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye.